I grew up in Zimbabwe at a home called Harare Children's Home. Dropped off 2 days old. Never met my parents. I've never met any family. Um, so the children's home was this place of refuge. It was my family. It's the only thing I'd ever known. And then at 9 years old, I got moved from that children's home to a boys' home. So you can imagine, even in your own home as a child, and they come and take you out of that home, and they say we're putting you in a completely different
Did you
home.
have any warning that you were being taken from one place to the next?
No, no.
Right.
No.
So I think that we heard a story about maybe a nun that you went back and saw who was at the children's home, or someone who saw you leave the children's home.
Yes, so it's the caregiver, the main caregiver. Her name is Maria Sitole. And she remembers that day like she remembers a lot of kids who leave. And I know for her, she said it's as traumatic for her as it was for us. I remember they had to pry me off all the walls and the fences. And they had to get a couple of grown men to put me into this car that was going to be driving me off to my new home. And so that was quite a traumatic time in my life.
That
And
was
because of-
9 years old, you
9 years old. And because of that, I kind of slipped into myself, and I became very mute, very quiet. Never really spoke much.
Once you got to the
Once
set.
I was a quiet kid already. When I went back and I spoke to Maria, I just wanted to know what I was like as a kid. And she said, "Oh, you were very quiet. You enjoyed your own company. You loved to be out in the bushes." And I always tell this story. If they ever made a movie about me, there's this little 6-year-old boy who's sitting in tall golden grass that's taller than him. And I would sit in this grass and I would sing to myself, kind of staring out into the distance. And so that's what I did when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So what were some of the songs you sang?
I remember one of the songs that I would sing went like, "It's gonna be alright, Tabs. Someday it's gonna be alright. All the pain will go away. It's gonna be alright, Tabs. Someday it's gonna be alright."
So you were there comforting yourself. That's really
At
beautiful.
6 years old.
At
And
6
you
years
just
old.
made that up?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's so good. You were giving yourself really positive
yeah.
words,
And
That's so
it's
much.
amazing. At 6 years old, I didn't know it then, but now when I look back, I understood that music could comfort me. And it was a way to release all this tension that I was feeling at the time.
Okay, I really identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
My first album I wrote was very much about my trauma and my childhood, and I really worked through a lot of that with that. And it is healing.
Very
There is
much.
no doubt that music is healing.
Yeah.
What was day-to-day life in the orphanage that you can recall? So from 2 days old until 9 years old, you were there at an orphanage.
I know the early days we had kindergarten at the children's home, so we didn't have to go anywhere. So day-to-day life, we got up and we went and do arts and craft, and then the day was ours. And most of the time we were left to ourselves, And then sort of 6 years old to 9, we went to regular schools with regular kids. And I think for me, that's sort of when the questions started, because I used to see some of my friends and I would ask, who is that man or that woman that comes and picks you up? And they'll be like, oh, those are my parents. And I wondered for the first time, I wonder where are my parents? Because I thought everybody grew up in a home with 100+ kids. So
Wow.
that's when all the questions started.
What did that home look like with 100+ kids? Were there, the bedrooms, were there bunks? Was it like what we think of?
So it's bunks. So it was broken into what they call cluster homes. And so there's 5 different buildings, and each of those buildings has a house mother who takes care of these kids. And because the girls stay there till they're 18 or 20, so they also become the caregivers of the infants to help
Interesting.
the house mother. So she's the one who runs the house, but the girls sort of are given the sort of the duties to take care of to make
The
sure all
younger
the kids
ones. So it is
washed
sort of like
and
kids being raised by kids,
kids
in
being
many
raised by
ways.
kids, yeah.
For sure.
So then you went from 9, you went what, to St. Joseph's?
I went to St. Joseph's House for Boys, yeah.
Okay, so that transition, did you have friends there who were also transitioning like
so
you?
there's 5 of us that moved from Harare Children's Home to St. Joseph's.
Right. And I think in hearing your music, and I've seen you perform live, one of my favorite songs is Waiting for You.
Oh, thank you.
And
Beautiful
I
song.
do think of that and how you do have this, obviously have had this experience growing up,
Right.
and what that gives you in terms of your feelings. How did you work that into that song and into these feelings of what was it that caused, right, the trauma? You were left alone. You felt that
Right.
feeling.
I think for me, like, even though I'm a grown man now, there's certain things that never leave. I think the questions of who my parents are and why did I get left at the orphanage, these are sort of questions that I feel will be with me forever. And I think with the song, like Waiting for You, actually my friend from Zimbabwe as well, his name is Tinashe T. He had actually, we were working on some music and he came, I remember the next day to the studio, and he said, hey, I have this song idea. And he played a little bit of the chorus. And I said, it's amazing about people who've grown up with you and who've seen, they also can sometimes tell your story a little bit in a different way than you can. And so once he had shown me this, I remember sitting down and sort of we finished that song very quick.
Wow.
But because it was all those nights and all those days that I would ask those questions. And I remember there was a time specifically when the children's home was trying to get kids sort of linked up with any family member. So they were putting them adverts in the newspaper to see if somebody would come. And I remember like it was myself and like 3 other kids who no one showed up for us. And so that's where one of those lines that's, you said that you were coming back soon, but I'm still waiting for you.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this clip. Be sure to watch the full episode by clicking the link in the description.
Right, and don't forget to like this video and then subscribe to our channel. Oh, and click on the bell icon so we can let you know when we post a new video.
Thanks guys, take care.
See you next time.